Hello again out there in, let's see, where are we? We're in, in Friendship Village. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Once again, we have a most interesting guest. So let's start by telling our audience who our sponsor is for this podcast. It is the maintenance department at Friendship Village. Now, this is a group of people, men, women, both, who I think do generally a pretty good job keeping up with our demands for this needs fixed, this needs moved, and so we hope your experiences with the maintenance have been positive ones, and if nothing else, I can say they're a friendly group, so I appreciate that about them. So thank you Chad, thank you Nick, and all the people in maintenance. Thank you for keeping our life straighter and better. So we're about ready to introduce our guest, but first I want to share a quick story. Now this is about a minister who, an avid golfer, by the way, and it was Sunday morning, and he just had a bug to go out and play golf, but he knew he should be at church. So he called his assistant, and the assistant agreed to take over the service that morning so he could go out. So he went to a neighboring town about 25 miles away because he didn't want to be noticed, and so he wanted to do all of this on the sly. So he got up to the first tee, got out his ball. The ball was moving through the air. He was at a 400-yard par 4 initial hole. He landed just a little bit short of the green, bounced onto the green, and wiggled its way into the hole. He had a hole-in-one on a par 4. I mean, that is something. That's a double eagle, I think, or whatever they call it. So looking on in this whole scene was the Lord himself in heaven, and he had an angel with him, and they were observing this, and so the angel knew that the Lord had a hand in making that drive go all the way into the hole. So he spoke to the Lord. He said, "Lord, why did you do that? Why did you make that ball end up in the hole on the first hole?" And the Lord looked at the angel and smiled and said, "Now just who is he going to tell?" Oh, yeah. Who is he going to tell?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get started with the interview.
Okay.
Mary, why don't you take over at this point?
All right. Today we're interviewing Mr. Russ Clark, a resident of Village Terrace. Hasn't lived there too awful long, but I sat with him at a meal one night, and we got to visiting, and I thought he was very interesting. And I keep all these things in my mind as I'm looking for prospective podcast interviews. So I called and asked him, and he was very willing to do it. I think his wife helped push him a little bit, but I'm going to get her too. I will get his wife.
Now, by the look on his face, I wonder if he maybe has a second guess about whether he
Yeah.
No.
But anyway, we got him here, so that's half the battle.
Okay.
So anyway, usually, Russ, we start out with welcoming you and asking a little bit about your earlier years, like where were you born?
I was born in Anna, Illinois. I resided there for 4 days while I was in the hospital. And then my parents continued their trip back from an Army base to Cedar Rapids, but they had to stop along the way. I wasn't heavy enough to be discharged from the hospital without a nurse, so my father had to drive back to Waterloo and get a relative that was a nurse so that they would dismiss me. So that's where I was born.
Were you born premature? I mean, small? Or?
No, I was just, I was under 4 pounds, I think, something like that.
Oh.
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Back then that was a concern, I guess.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, it was, I'm sure. But they got you through it.
They got me back here,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest is history.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out what the rest was. So you went to Cedar Rapids. Is that where you grew up?
No,
Okay.
I don't know that I was ever there. I believe after a while, went back to the Army base in Mississippi until my dad left for World War II. So I'm not sure where we came back. Probably came back somewhere around Troy Mills.
Okay.
Troy Mills, Iowa?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
I don't know where that's at, but
it's real near Coggin.
I've heard of that. Some of these small towns in this part
Okay,
of it.
how about north of Cedar Rapids?
That's good.
There we go.
There we
Probably,
go.
probably somewhere around 50 miles.
Okay.
Right between, Troy Mills was right between Coggin and Walker.
Okay.
But
Gotcha.
you don't know where that is either.
Not really,
Good.
no. But that's
Okay.
okay, as long as you know where it's at. So how long did you stay in that area?
Well, we went back to Mississippi, and I think we stayed there for until, I don't really know, I don't have the dates. Probably the next thing that I knew, we were living on a farm by Winthrop. That was probably a stage soon after my dad got home from the war, World War II. So that I was there for a short period of time.
And did you have brothers and sisters along the way?
I have one brother, and I have 4 sisters.
Wow. And are they all living and reside in the area?
They are not all living.
Okay.
One of the sisters was a twin.
Okay.
And she died. The other twin is still alive. But the rest of them are living. One sister and one brother live in Iowa. The other 2 have just moved to Idaho. They're in Oakley, Idaho. One of the sisters lived on the family farm for a while and stayed there, and now is moving to Idaho. The other sister and her husband were in Oregon, in Klamath Falls, and they're leaving Oregon, and they all are going to live in Oakley, Idaho,
Okay.
which has, as I understand, 1 restaurant, 1 convenience store, a high school, and a gas station.
Well, they will jump up the population if they all move there.
Yes, it will increase it to somewhere around 300.
Very good. So then, where did you go to school? Grade school?
I went to school in Independence. We lived on a farm just east of Independence, so I was there for a few years. One of the sisters lived on the family farm for a while. We stayed there both before and after I got polio, and then soon after we got back, I got back from Iowa City when I was 8 from having polio. Soon after that, they left that farm and went to down by Coggin, Iowa for a while, and then we moved back up to just west of Independence for several years. So I went to school at Independence. I went to school at Coggin for 1 year, and then I went to school in Otterville, Iowa for a number of years, and then we moved to a farm up by Postville, so I went to Valley High at Claremont, Elgin, Wadena through high school.
Mm-hmm. So after high school then, did you pursue a college career?
I went to UNI, and I got my BA from UNI, and I have a master's degree in school administration from UNI that I got at a later date. And then I've got graduate hours from them and some other places.
Okay. So what was your first actual job, or did you start work?
I started work for my grandfather in high school as a carpenter's apprentice.
Ah.
Did that for a few years. I worked in a turkey plant in Postville in summers when I was going to high school also. And then during college, I worked for an REA company out of Postville for one summer. I worked for an electric distributorship in Burlington, Iowa for one summer. I worked as a dishwasher at Beaver Hills in Cedar Falls one summer. And then after that, I started working for Waterloo Community Schools after I got my degree.
Okay, and what capacity at the school were you in?
I was a science teacher. Started out teaching 7th and 8th grade science. And while I was there, I also taught some 8th grade math. And then at one point, I was also teaching 8th grade science and 9th grade science. And then eventually I was just teaching the 8th grade science because the 9th graders moved up to the high school.
Okay, which school was that at?
That was at Hoover Middle School, Hoover Intermediate, depending on what.
Right.
They changed the name while I was there.
Mm-hmm. I'm well acquainted with that school because we used to go over there and meet with the students at different times.
That's the one nearby here.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just
yeah.
right up.
Very nice school.
Mm-hmm, it is.
Yeah.
And we went to Lou Henry also. We
Mhm.
went there and read with kids.
Yep.
So both are very nice schools. And then they go on to high school from there.
Yes.
Did you kind of have an inkling all along that you wanted to be a teacher? Do you think?
I'm pretty sure I did. My mother taught for a very short period of time at Troy Mills at a one-room schoolhouse for a few years. I think that I had it in my head that I wanted to go that route.
Yeah.
Would be a fair guess, yes.
Okay.
So how long did you teach then? Because you worked your way into other things.
I probably taught solely for around 20 years, and then there was a 10-year period where I taught half-time, and I was a science coordinator for Waterloo Schools for the other half, and then eventually that became a full-time position. And at one point, I was in charge of all the science in Waterloo Schools, and as we started cutting coordinators, at one point I was taking care of science education, phys ed, business, home ec, art, and I had a few other things that I was doing, industrial tech. I had all of the industrial tech type stuff. I think I also had health education. That was at the end when I had all those things. I had everything
You
for
were like a
2 or 3
one-man.
years.
You were like a one-man school. I mean, you sort of knew all this stuff.
At that stage, I had a certification for anything.
Wow, that's pretty
For-
good.
At one point I could teach anything at K9,
Okay.
but I never did. I had the endorsements.
Right. Very good. Wonderful. Wonderful. And
I-
then along the way, somewhere as teaching, you met your wife.
Oh, I met my wife at UNI.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she was going to college also, I
She was
presume.
going to college. She was a music major.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you got
She
married.
plays a good piano.
Yes.
She is a good piano person. She plays the organ, although she doesn't do that anymore. And she's an extremely good vocalist.
Good.
And she writes music.
I know. I hear all that about her. That's why I thought, tucking that away for the future.
Yeah, she did a lot of things with music. She had students, private lessons for piano and organ, and she was a choir director for both for adult and children in a church, and she played the organ in a number of different churches going through high school and college.
Good. How long have you been married?
Long time.
Yeah. We like to get into specifics.
Since 1967 or 68.
So I put him on the spot and he had to think about that.
No,
Do you remember the day, though?
Sure.
The date?
Sure do.
Oh, okay. That's good.
And then you had a family, I presume?
Yes. Have 2 daughters. And they went through Waterloo schools and both went to UNI. One got a degree in history and then got her another degree, and she works for UNI. Other one got her degree in business ed, and she went to work for a while in the Chicago area, and then she's back here now and is not working.
Good, good. And grandchildren?
Yes, I have 5 grandchildren. Lori, our older daughter, has a daughter, and the other daughter, Julie, has 2 sons and 2 daughters, and 3 of them are triplets.
Wow.
Oh, my. Huh.
And they're all older, I would assume.
The Julie's oldest is a sophomore at Wartburg, and Lori's one child is now at University of Wisconsin at Stout, and she's going into the computer-related things, animation, whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That's where her interest is.
Good. And when did you move here to Friendship Village? This past year?
It was, I think, August 17th last year.
About a year.
Yeah, just a little bit over a year now.
And where did you live in Waterloo previously?
We lived in 2 or 3 different places,
Okay.
both in this area. The last place we were was over in Guernsey Park in the condo tower complex.
Mm-hmm. What brought you to Friendship Village? Did you talk to somebody, or were you interested in coming to a independent living facility?
My health brought us here. We knew that this was a place where we needed to be because I have residual effects from the polio.
Okay.
And
we have life care here, and that's...
I know you do.
That's
why
the
we're here.
drawing card.
And I know that I will be able to stay here. Intention was at one point to come here when we went to the condo tower complex, because that was an auxiliary part of Friendship Village. We had an automatic ability to get in here, although we did not use that. When we decided it was time to sell the property, when they built this new complex, we decided to come here.
Very good. Well, we're glad you did. Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
And you got involved in several things here.
Not too much.
No.
I'm doing some woodworking. I'm not too much involved in anything else at this stage. At some point, I will become more involved.
Well, this is the idea. You can pick and choose what you want.
Well, I prefer to be. I've been too much in the forefront of everything as principal and coordinator and different things, and I had to manage 3 buildings one time as a principal, and I'm just trying to step back and let some other people find a niche.
Right.
Okay.
I don't need to be in charge of everything anymore.
No. You wore many hats.
Yeah.
You probably have many offices too.
I had, at one point, I had an office in 3 buildings.
Right. I can see that.
Yes.
I can see that.
So I was the person that would help the high schools develop their dual enrollment program, working with the teachers, working with the college to coordinate what was happening and build that program. At one time, we had a student, and this has happened many times since, that graduated from West High School on one day, and the next day graduated from Hawkeye Community College with their 2-year degree.
Really?
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
the thing with the dual education program is the state of Iowa pays for the tuition.
Wow.
That does not cost the students or their parents or the high school any money. The state shells out the money. It is a wonderful program.
I guess
Yes.
so. Yeah.
And it's continuing.
Yes.
Going strong.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, it's very strong.
Yeah.
Both in Waterloo and in this area. We have a lot of the tech courses now out at Central Middle School. They've got a whole wing there. They have an extensive program, and it's only going to build. It's going to get more programs out there and more students, and it is a very valuable program.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well,
Let me ask this, Russ. I heard some discussion last week on TV, and they were talking about whether or not there's just too much emphasis on going to college, and there could be more emphasis on after high school, maybe tech training and job training that way, technical kinds of things.
Do you know what the percentage is? And this is for many, many years. Back 20, 30 years ago, the percentage of people that started college and finished it, about a third of the people finished college.
A third?
A third. About 30% of the people going into college back when I was working was 30%. I doubt greatly that it is higher than that, and one of the reasons is because unfortunately all parents have high expectations for their students, for their children, but many of them, college is not the place for them.
Yeah.
right.
That's why there's such a need to move students into an interest choice that really they've had a chance to experience and know that they want to go that direction. And that's why these programs that the high schools now have that connect them with a specific vocational area, whether it be in education or whether it be in carpentry or whether it be in mechanical areas.
Right.
Those are very valuable because that's where the jobs are. The number of people we need for electricians and plumbing is just outstanding.
Yeah.
And those opportunities pay well. Those jobs pay well. And yes, that person that said that college is not the place for everybody
Yeah.
was totally correct.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're very optimistic people. We expect our children to go on farther than we did.
Sure.
And that's the drive for getting them to go to college.
Very
You
good.
know, it's been a very interesting
Yes.
conversation, and I'm sitting here. I can think about 6 more questions to ask Russ, but
Yeah.
we're kind of at the end of
We're
our
going
time.
to run out of time,
Yeah.
like
Edit-
we always do.
Edit anything out you want.
Well, it could go on all afternoon, I think,
Yeah,
if we
this-
wanted to.
yeah.
No.
And it's very enlightening. I just love to hear about education, because education is what we need for these children. We got to keep going with them. We got to keep encouraging them. We got to find out what they want to do and get them into those programs.
When students are engaged, they do well. It's a matter of connecting with them as people. Then they are not discipline problems. They are not, they're learning. They've got to have a reason why they want to learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I told students one time in a science class at Expo, I taught there also, that if they could convince me that what I was teaching them was something that they wouldn't need, if I couldn't explain why they needed it, they didn't have to learn it.
Uh-huh.
I never changed anything that I asked them to do, because I could explain anything on how it would affect their lives.
Right.
That was probably a central point you were making for the teachers of the science students, is how to get engaged.
I did that. I that was always the thrust when anything I did with teacher education.
Yeah. Well, I wish we had more time.
You bet.
Yeah.
You bet.
All righty. Well, thank you much.
Well, thank you.
Good luck.
We're gonna sign off with this. May the good Lord bless and keep you until we meet again. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.